What up, yo? It's Guru Jojo, and in this video I'm going to be speaking about the significance of the moon phases. You see, the moon phases, they're important because they kind of draw an outline for what we're going to experience, and it's pretty much a consistent pattern that we can keep regardless of, you know, the new moon cycles, the full moon cycles. As these change, everything changes in sign. But the point is that, you know, there's a consistent cycle. The full moon represents illumination. Anything that's illuminated, it is connected to brighter. Okay, anything that's brighter is trying to give off a sense of optimism, positivity. This is why the fire signs, Leo, Aries, Sagittarius, all three of these signs, generally speaking, they are positive signs because they tend to externalize more positivity, optimism, and they tend to kind of ignore, you know, the more heavier signs and elements, which would be like, you know, Cancer, Scorpio, Pisces, which is the water element and stuff. All three of the fire signs have a water element in their 12th house, which 12th house tends to be the area of life which we may avoid or escape unless you have planets there. Okay, so I'm saying this like, and if you don't believe me, Aries has what? Pisces in the 12th house. Leo has what? Cancer in the 12th house. Sagittarius has what? Scorpio in the 12th house. So this is the areas of life that they could be avoiding about themselves and others. And then what happens is, when it comes time to deal with these things, it usually hits them full force. And if they have been escaping it for too long, this is where things get a little bit crazy at. But in general, the fire signs are optimistic. They look at the bright side of things. They don't like to deal with things that are too heavy. They don't like to deal with things that are dark. And this is why, too, they can be very attracted to dark people, because it reminds them of the stuff that they escaped. But then this causes a conflict with them because they always want to be like bright and in the light and look at the optimistic perspective of things. So this is why the illumination of the moon is expressing more of a positive vibration of the moon. So during the full moon cycles, there's a more optimistic perspective. Now this could cause people to kind of go after things with full force because there's such a fullness in the emotional vibration at the time. So think about the past moon phase using tropical astrology. We had what? We had a full moon, a full supermoon in Capricorn, right? So then what was happening basically was, when the full moon was in Cap, we were basically experiencing, we were looking forward to, we were sensing hopefulness, right? Optimism towards what? Our status, reputation, our professional lives in some way, right? Gaining capital, right? Where to maybe invest our capital at and stuff like that. Optimism, hopefulness in that area of life. And then as soon as the moon starts to go into that waning phase, okay, the shadow starts to sneak up on us because the illumination is starting to come off of the moon, which means the emotional expression, the emotions and feelings of all of us collectively was now starting to taper off, because we had to now deal with the shadows, the things that we kind of were not maybe attending to as much, the things that we may forget. So our life is always trying to balance ourselves out. It's like, look, you have hope, there's optimism, okay? But chill out. As the moon phase starts to cheese, it's like, chill out, boo-boo, you still got some shadows. So then it shows you some shadows, right? Then it goes into the quarter phase, which is basically half, right? Half illumination, half darkness. So then we have the opportunity to really balance things out. This is almost like when it's in that quarter phase, it kind of gives us that Libra feel. Okay, I feel like this phase is probably good for relationships and stuff like that, because it allows us to kind of blend and consider other people's emotions and feelings, because we have to deal with our own shadow. And sometimes, for some reason, human beings would rather deal with other people's shadows than their own. So boom, relationships. Then when you get into the waxing phase. And this is going into the new moon. So when you get into the waxing phase, you're almost completely getting into the shadows. And this is when we can either feel like a little bit confused, or we kind of feel like for some reason we may be able to change something, or most people feel like new beginnings. Like, oh, we're going towards a new moon. Oh, I could start over. So other people, they feel like they can just completely escape. Some people will completely escape their own emotions and feelings and follow the shadows of someone else or something like that. This is a very low vibration of like shadow. Now, if you use Vedic astrology, sidereal, or whatever, I feel like Vedic astrology and stuff like that, as it relates to the moon phases, they are dealing with more so the shadow. This is more shadow work. So a lot of times I feel like people that are into Vedic astrology and whatnot, they are trying to fix their past lives more so that they can fix the future. So if you're a person that you know is that your life is like messed up, right? I feel like you should probably gain some knowledge in Vedic astrology, because I feel like Vedic astrology is straight up shadow work. Because you're constantly looking at the 12th house, in my opinion. Like, it's one sign behind. So you're constantly looking at the 12th, the number 12. You're constantly looking at what everyone escapes. You're constantly looking at what people, like, you're constantly looking at what's behind your back, whereas most people are looking forward. You know, I feel like Vedic astrology and stuff, they're constantly looking back to understand what happened, which is very beneficial to being more predictive towards the future. So when it comes to Vedic astrology and stuff, this type of astrology is more psychically predictive. It's not psychically predictive, but it's more predictive or accurate in predictions, because they're constantly understanding history to understand the future. Now, this doesn't consider, obviously, like change and stuff. This is where people get a little stooped up. Just because you understand what happened, that don't mean that you're gonna understand what's gonna happen, but it gives a better perspective on it. So, boom, that's the moon phase. I'm gonna start to write out, I think, the moon phases as it relates to like the current sun, the current transit of the sun and whatnot. And most likely these will, at least for right now, it will be posted on my Instagram at Metamuse. That's METAMUSEE. So 2 E's at the end. Follow, like, comment, share, subscribe. Also on my Facebook page. It's the Guru Jojo Facebook page, but the actual URL is, facebook.com/metamuse with 2 E's as well. So boom, blessings, light, and love to everybody.